The Torah tells us in the book of Bamidbar, chapter 30, verses 10 to 14, and I quote, "But every vow of a widow, or of her that is divorced, with which they have bound their souls, shall stand against her. And if she vowed in her husband's house, or bound herself by a bond with an oath, and her husband heard it, and held his peace at her, and disallowed her not, then all her vows shall stand, and every bond with which she bound her soul shall stand. But if her husband nullified them on the day he heard them, then whether proceeded out of her lips concerning her vows or concerning the bond of her soul shall not stand. Her husband has nullified them, and God shall forgive her." Every vow and every binding oath to afflict the soul, her husband may uphold it, or her husband may nullify it. You see here a very clear statement in the Torah of two components, which we discussed in the past several days. The husband capability of helping his wife, especially in a time of stress. Situations, somebody knocked the door, she have compassion, she make a commitment way above their capability, she regretted, the husband can come in and said, "I will not approve it," or "I approve it." So basically the Torah gives the husband the capability to either confirm or revoke his wife's vow. But the Mishnah at the beginning of this chapter dealing with certain situation. They call it the category of affliction, or in Ivrit, inui nefesh. Inui nefesh meaning is a certain commitment that she afflicted upon herself. For example, she said, "I'll not take a shower," or she said, "I'll not use a certain cosmetic that women basically needs," or "I'll not beauty myself," or etc., etc. So here we deal with all these delicate subjects of nullification or approval of certain vows, especially the category of inui nefesh. We're getting close to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We know, I think very well by now, that when it's come to Yom Kippurim, the Day of Atonement, there are 5 categories of inui nefesh. Prohibition against eating, drinking, all of them, it's bathing, it's considering inui nefesh, a affliction upon a soul. So if, for example, she said, "I do not bathe," so does that mean he can annul her right away? Can need to wait? What exactly the formulation of annulment, and how exactly you categorize the inui nefesh? What exactly the language of the Mishnah that said im erchatz, if I bathe? So we're going to study page 18, Tractate Nedarim, but we'll start on page 79b, 6 lines from the bottom of the page. So the Mishnah said im erchatz. She said, "If I bathe." We go by every single word. If I bathe. Okay? So the Gemara asks, "Heichei ke'amar," what exactly she meant, and what exactly you mean by saying confirmation or annulment in this type of language? I leima, if you tell me, "De amra konam perot olam alai im erchatz," if she said a language of vow, she said, "Konam, this produce upon me if I bathe," so therefore, lama li la hafara. Since she put a condition that she prohibited herself all the produce of the world, so she can avoiding that from herself without manner of revocation. From doing so, is no need for a husband to come in. Lo tirchatz velo litasran. Peirot olam ala. So she will not bathe, and the produce of the world will not become forbidden to her. The idea, some taking out the word elu. The big question is, avoiding bath, is that considering inui nefesh? Is that considering an affliction or not? The category that is a big discussion among the rabbis is, what do you mean by affliction? You tell me someone who's not eating, it's an affliction. Not drinking. Avoiding bath, in a way, is a different category. How you put the category of affliction and not bath? What exactly the matching point? Again, we're getting close to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We just passed the Tisha B'Av, the fast of 9 of Av. And if you remember, it is a discussion among the rabbis over the 9 days. Someone, for example, he's loaded and unloaded heavy materials, that's his job, and he constantly heavily sweating. And we explained that there are some exceptions that the person can take bath. So here there is a wonderful book called She'arim Metsuyanim Bahalacha. He gave an example for this discussion. He said, you have to understand that one concept is like taking a shower or taking a bath. There are some people, you go to senior home, you see it a lot, they use a wet towel and the bathing people with wet towel, right? I remember after my accident, I couldn't move any part of my body. So the nurse used to come with a very sophisticated new stuff, which I don't know if you guys know it. It's, she pull out like, it looks like a large bag, and basically with no water, with anything, it contains shampoo and conditioner and water. I don't know how it works exactly. And she basically did my my hair without using any water or anything. So in the modern days you see it. I don't know, did you ever see that? They use it in the hospitals now. Anyway, the idea is that when you define affliction, inui nefesh, as far as the hagdara, the definition, She'arim Metsuyanim Bahalacha said, for example, she decided to use not a regular water. She using only a wet towel as concept of affliction in some manner. So ve'od behal leima Rabbi Yossi ein elu nidrei enuyei nefesh dilma rachza ve'itasru perot olam haba. So maybe she take a bath and the produce of the world, well, let's say they're forbidden to her. So the question is, if you go by this category of Rabbi Yossi, it is nidrei inui nefesh. Is part. Again, you have to go deeper a little bit in that sense. When we speak about the 5 prohibitions of Yom Kippur, so let's face it, can you compare a prohibition against drinking or eating, the prohibition against taking bath? I meant, it is an affliction, but how far you go with that affliction, it's a discussion. Page 80, ואלא דאמרה, קונם הנעת רחיצה עלי לעולם. You have to say that she said, the wife said, the benefit of taking a bath is konam upon me, which means that's a category of affliction, of inui nefesh. Im erchatz, if one time, if forever, if I bath, which means the first bath is not prohibited upon her. But if she bath, then from then and onward, the Rosh explained, from the point of the taking the first bath and onward is prohibited upon her. So Reb Shlomo Kluger asked a question. He said, when we speak about Chalot Nedarim, the fulfillment of vow, so how she can do this type of thing? We all know that women in a regular state, young one, right? She needs to go to the mikveh once a month, right? So in order to go to the mikveh, she needs to sit in the bath, and she needs to take the shower and sit in the bath for a certain period of time, and it's called Tvilat Mitzvah. It's a biblical commandment that she needs to do. So, how Reb Shlomo Kluger asked, how this manner of neder, when it's come to rechitza leolam, she commit herself forever not to bath, take any manner of effect. So either you say that maybe we are speaking about category of women that passed that age, or the way that Reb Shlomo Kluger tried to say, he said, we have to differentiate between two categories. One is a tvila, and one is rechitza. One is ducking herself in a mikveh, and one is a manner of preparation by taking this bath. And he said the mitzvah is the tvila, the ducking herself. The preparation is not mitzvah, it's a separate category that needs to take place by the preparation. So therefore you can go by the sharim mitzuyin in b'halacha, that she does it in a different ways, with the wet towel, there's all kind of ways. Even if you look deeply in halacha, there is a need for her to be a half hour to make sure that it's all clean, because we have this category of 5 and 7, you know, the time of the period and the time of counting afterward, etc. In general, there are those who ask, since the rabbis prohibited bathing on Shabbat, right? So why you see, if you go to some cities, there is a mikveh that is warm. How people can duck themselves in a warm mikveh, right? On Shabbat. So first is a well-known story. I heard it from Rabbi Kitov, is the son of the famous rabbi that wrote the Sefer HaToda'ah. We studied together many years ago. So he said that once they saw the Chebin Rov, the great rabbi of Chebin, he walked in a mikveh in Yerushalayim, and then someone saw him stepping in the mikveh, like going down the stairs, and the moment he touched the water and he noticed that it's warm, he walked out, came out, dressed and walked out, didn't duck himself. But Reb Shlomo, what?
If that mikveh is prepared before the Shabbos,
correct,
with warm water, then it's okay.
Okay, so for sure it's a good point. There is a different level of stringencies. What?
We studied that in Tractate Shabbos with regard to who prepared it, who made it warm, whether it was non-Jews or Jews. Those all have to be considered.
The answer is there is a different category of stringencies. Everyone is different. In my father's, God bless him, in his mikveh, my father worked about 22 years to build his mikveh. Unbelievable story. Anyway, so he has two mikveot in that mikveh. One is a cold water that some Hasidim duck in Shabbat just because it's cold, even it's a cold freezing winter. And one is have some warmth, that this warm is before Shabbat, and just because the temperatures stay warm, they stay warm. My father is very strict not to keep it warm.
Right.
But if you warm it in a very, very high temperature before Shabbat, and you put a sign that nobody can touch it, right, before Shabbat, and then you turn it off a moment before Shabbat, and then it stay warm overnight, you come in the morning, you see that it's still warm. That's a different story. But if you keep something that keep them warm during Shabbat, some rabbis have issues with that. Mm-hmm. But anyway, Rabbi Shlomo Kluger said, when the sages prohibited rechitza, a manner of taking a bath, is rechitza. It's not tvila. It's important to know that it's two different categories, Rabbi Shlomo Kluger said. So here the big question is, what type of tnai, what type of condition she made?
Rabbi, the rabbi prohibited taking a bath on Shabbos, right? But if you take a cold bath,
right, that's
okay.
different. That's Easternis, and you don't use. It's an issue of schita. You don't use shampoo. You just in a hot.
Try not to get your hair wet.
That's what I said.
Yeah, I mean, not only not use shampoo, you should try to keep your hair
Keep
out of
hair.
the water. You should not get your hair wet.
If you live in Florida,
Or
No, you should not get your hair wet.
so you live in Florida, let's say, and it's 140 outside, and you sweat like crazy, right, on Shabbat. So you take a cold shower without your hair, just to calm down your body.
Yeah, but no soap, no.
That's like in Panama, and you could go under the shower and the water cold, but you feel good, you know, because the earth so hot.
So hot, like Panama, yes,
feel
yes,
natural,
yes, yes.
You know, I'm pretty sure when you.
Yes, yes. Mishum hachi, for this reason, the Tanakama hold that the husband may ferla. It's considering as neder inui nefesh. It's considering a vow of affliction, and the husband can revoke the neder, the vow of his wife. The heichei ta'avid, how the wife will be able to avoid herself from the concept of inui nefesh, or taking affliction upon herself. Because either way, tirchatz, if she bet herself one time, she is in violation of that tnai, mitasra hanaat rechitza ala. So now it is prohibited any manner of bathing, right, upon her forever. So you have here both nivul, which means degradation, right, of her body, and a matter of affliction. And lo tirchatz, if she would not bath even one time in order for the vow not to take effect, it la nivula, they have this temporarily disfigurement, which means it's a inui nefesh, is affliction, so therefore the husband can make a revocation. Rabbi Yosei savar, it's not part of inui nefesh, אפשר שלא רחצה ולניווי לא חיישינן. It's possible for her not to bath, and we are not concerned about the repugnance, which means the idea that the wife can be in that state, that he is not considering bathing as a affliction. You either said it like the Sharim Etzonim Ba'alacha, maybe using a wet towel or other ways. So the Tosfot said that that way both the Tnai, the condition, and the Neder Atzmo and the vow, both of them, it's not considering an Inui Nefesh. But again, we have to differentiate in the distinction of that bathing. Hot versus cold water, the condition, etc. We have to see the full picture. I remember doing the service, serving in Gaza. So one of the things that I remember is the idea that, I'm not joking, I think you heard it from Yehuda. Remember when he visited here, that when they used to go inside homes, they used to wear a mask. Because you have people there that don't take a shower who knows how long. You see people live in a house, I'm not joking, 2-bedroom house with like 15, 16 people, and the sheep and the donkey. Wow. And they have some water, but not always they're taking a bath. So there are people who doesn't feel affliction by not doing so. We see it differently, but anyway. If that's the disputation, litnei hachi. So the Mishnah needs to follow the view of Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi omer tnai ze, this condition of avoiding bath, ein bo inui nefesh. It does not involve an affliction. Why? Because when you're dealing with the content of the vow itself is irrelevant. Why? Because she cannot fulfill the condition. So the whole condition applies to that and not to the vow itself. One of the greatest rabbi in the past generation in Europe, in Poland, and Germany, was Maharam Rothenburg, was an ingenious rabbi. So in his writing, he dealt with the issue of inui nefesh, of affliction. What exactly you define affliction? You have a big write-up about it. For example, a wife commit herself not to dance. She used to go twice a week or once a week. It's a huge fun for her to go and dance. And then she, for all kind of reasons, commit herself, take a vow, oath upon herself that she's not going to dance. Or another unpleasant category, she refused to take a bath for all kind of reasons. So the husband wants to divorce her, he sent her a get, and she refused to accept the get. So he brought a testimony to the Rabbinic court that she basically refused to take a bath, and she admitted. But by the same token, it's all kind of personal bigotry over all kind of issues. So he needs basically heter mea rabbanim. He gets a special consent of 100 rabbis that allow him to marry even without her acceptance of the get. But there is a book called Beit Yaakov. It's a Kadmon, it's an early writing that he have all this concept of vows that wife made with certain limitation. For example, she said, for a couple of hours I'm not taking vows. Is that considering a nui nefesh? Is that considering a manner of affliction or not, based on this discussion? Ela, so now the Gemara rectified the explanation. They said, the Mishnah speaking the Amra, when she said, Hana'at rechitza alai le'olam im erchatz hayom. She said the benefit of bathing is konam upon me forever if I bath today. So she limited it to one day, meaning if I will take a bath today, I will be prohibited forever to take bath. But if I will avoid myself from taking bath today, so tomorrow I can take a bath. So therefore, the husband can revoke that. ורבי יוסי סבר ניבול דחד יומא לא שמי ניבול. He said that this type of nivul, disfigurement that applies to one day, it's not considering one. So therefore, the husband cannot revoke this type of vow because it's not considering nivul. One day it's nothing. Page 80b. Shenit. So first, before we continue, I would like to share with you the Rambam, Hilchot Nedarim, chapter 12. The Rambam said, Hana'at rechitza le'olam, im erchatz hayom, if a woman takes a vow not to bath, adorn herself, paint her eyes, or rub her cheeks, they are all considered vows of affliction. For example, if she vows that bathing or adorning herself is forbidden to her, or if she says that the benefit of bathing or adorning herself will be forbidden to her, if she bathes or adorns herself, then even if she limits the prohibition on her bathing or adorning herself to one day, this is a vow of self-affliction based on the idea of Chachamim of the rabbis. So therefore, you see the Rambam ruling, and you see the others, the Bach, the Shach, the Vilna Gaon, that follow that vows rendering bathing or adorning forbidden are vows that adversely affect the relationship between husband and wife, and therefore it's one of those categories that you have the idea of hafara, the manner of revocation of the husband. So here the Gemara said, if you explain the Mishnah Shenit im erchatz, which is im erchatz is a t'nai, is a condition to that vow, but the neder itself is konam hana'at rechitza alai im lo erchatz echidamei ilei madam rati tasar hana'at rechitza l'olam im lo erchatz hayom. If she said, I will be forbidden to take a bath forever if I'll not bath today, lama li la hafara. Why? does she need nullification at all? Why it's considering this vow as affliction, as sinui nefesh? Tit sechei, let her bath today, so therefore she will not be prohibited from now and onward. Amar Rav Yehuda, the Mishnah meant the Amra, that she said, Hana'at rechitza alai le'olam, im lo erchatz b'mei mishra. So she prohibited herself forever a manner of bathing if I will not bath with the unclean water, foul water. So here the Rashash explained the language here. It's when you use the word im, it's like oh, meaning either way. Either way is affliction, is inui nefesh. Either way meaning if I will not bath or I will bath with the foul water, either way is a manner of unpleasant affliction upon ourselves. Therefore, the husband can do a hafara, he can revoke her vow. So the Gemara rejected that and said, Dikvatei, the parallel example, Diktane im lo et kashet, if I do not adore myself, to mean the benefit of adoring myself is forbidden to me forever if I do not do something repulsive. Im lo et kashet beneft lichluchu. So neft is like a what is called the gasoline, the one that
it's like
right
tar, yeah.
Right. One of these that it's beside of the smell and our healthiness, the Tosfot and the Rosh and the Ran say that this is very unpleasant, to say the least, between the bad materials and the odor that comes out of that. You go to a gas station, you puff the gasoline, you smell it, right? So imagine if she said to do that to herself, to put it on her body, right? So in general, you should know, it's a famous responder from the late the Rabbi Bennett, famous rabbi, that we are not allowed to add. We just read it a few weeks ago in the Torah. Add more than the Torah asks us. So if someone said, okay, it's Yom Kippur, I'm going to stay in the like hot heat, like sauna, to afflict pain upon myself. That's not Judaism. You have a restriction of the 5 prohibition. You don't add, you don't subtract. You do the way they ask you to do, in a very clear, strict structure. Okay? Amar Rav Yehuda.
What about those that don't sit on you stand all
it's a discussion. It's discussion. You have that's a stringency. There are those who.
Is that an added stringency on Yom Kippur?
Khatam Sofer have a response or not. It's who am I to comment on that? There are great people that can do it. God bless them.
My grandfather did it, but
God bless them. I'm doing it anyway because I'm chazan, but in general it's hard. It's hard.
Right, I mean,
it's hard. Amar Rav Yehuda. So the first example in the Mishnah, if she said im erchatz, so she basically make a vow that she will not take bath or she will not adore herself today, but not for her entire life. So therefore the husband can revoke it. De amra na'at rechitza le'olam alai im erchatz hayom. And the second example, u'shvu'a shelo erchatz. So you have the second one, and the third example, im etkashet hana'at kishut alai le'olam. The benefit of adornment is forbidden for me forever. Im etkashet hayom. If I adorn myself today, ushvu'a, and I'm taking an oath, shelo etkashet, that I'll not adorn myself today. So it means that you have here 2 different categories of affliction, of inui nefesh. The husband have the authority to do hafara, to do revocation. The first one is if she made, the wife made it as a conditional. So That's the example we just used. Or the second option, that involved with inui nefesh, involved with affliction, without t'nai, without condition. So the Tanakama and Rabbi Yossi disputed in these two avenues, in both in regard to rechitza, bathing, and in regard to kishu, to adomen. So, so therefore the whole example of im erchatz hayom, so it's a different story now. Amar leRavina leRavashi, he says, Hai elu nedarim ushvuot. What we use here, the language that the Mishnah starts. These are the manner of vow that a husband can annul. Elu nedarim ushvuot mibayil lemitnei. These are the manner of the oath and vow that the Mishnah needs to teach, should have taught. So it said, Amar lei, Rav Ashi respond, Tnei elu nedarim ushvuot. These are the matter of nedarim and oath that a husband can abrogate. V'ba'it eima, you can go another option. Shvuot name hainu nedarim. You included the matter of oath with the matter of vows. Ditnan, we learn on page 9. If someone said kenidrei reshaim, nadar benazir uve korban uve shvuah. If he said that this is like the vow of the wicked, so vow of the wicked, if you remember we learned yadot nedarim. Yadot nedarim is like a neder. So, which means that's the language of the wicked. We learn in page 9 that people that were wicked makes just partially or statement that sometimes meaningless. They see someone does something and they said something as a follow-up. So it's applied to several things: to Nazirite, to offering, and oath. So an oath, in a way, can be called also as a manner of vow. Ve'amru Rabbanan, and the sages indeed said, in regard to bathing that involves self-affliction if it does not bath, לרחיצה יתבע עינוי נפש כי לא רחצה. ורמיני אף על פי שאסור בכולן, even though that a person is prohibited to all of them doing the Day of Atonement, which is, if you remember in Tractate Yoma chapter 8, all the 5 manner of affliction: eating, drinking, bathing, anointing the body with oil, and then wearing a sandal, a leather shoe, and sexual relations. So all this, anyway, and anush karet, the idea of punishment of that soul shall be cut off, that the Torah used, ela be'ochel ve'shoteh, someone who eats and drink, ve'oseh melacha bilvad, which means if someone eat or drink. So the Torah said in Leviticus 23 verse 29, Ki chol anefesh asher lo teuneh, any soul that not follow these restrictions, the Torah said ve'nichreta me'amea, that soul shall be cut off from its people. So some of those apply specifically to that idea of karet, such as doing a prohibited work on Yom Kippur. That's the next pasuk. If you tell me that avoiding herself from taking a bath is considering a matter of affliction, in Yom Kippur, if one bath, he should be liable to be under the karet, because that's considering what hanefesh asher lo teuneh. The Gemara in Tractate Yoma, page 74, brought another braita that said that the whole inui nefesh, the whole affliction, applies an aveidat nefesh, such as avoiding eating, avoiding drinking, But the bathing, it's a big question if that's considering Aveidat Nefesh. Based on that, if you remember, we discussed in Yoma the idea of Chatzi Shi'ur. So the rabbi of Minsk, it's a famous city in Germany, was an ingenious rabbi that wrote a responsa over the question. If you remember, the Mishnah in Yoma said that washing part of the fingers of the hands, Chatzi, or the king or the bride, they allowed to wash their faces on the Day of Atonement. It means that there are an exceptions. So here have a big mahalach, big explanation, what exactly you meant by saying rechitza, matter of bathing. If you have chatzi shiur shel isur, if you have in a way half a way of something that is prohibited, for example, bathing the hands, etc. How exactly you go in the matter of violation when it's come to the bathing on Yom Kippurim? But anyway, Amar Rava, the definition of affliction, me'inyana dekra, if you zoom in the text, or the Bach said, Amar Rava, hacha me'inyana dekra vehacha me'inyana dekra, גבי יום הכיפורים דכתיב, תענו את נפשותיכם. The Torah said specifically, at the 7th month, on the 10th day of the 7th month, you remember, we count the month by the Torah, the first month is what they call later the month of Nisan. That's the month of the redemption from Exodus from Egypt, the freedom. And then you count the month, you reach the month of the 7th, which call later Tishrei, and the 10th day of the 7th month, te'anu et nafshoteichem, you shall afflict upon your souls that manner of affliction. So milta diada inuya ashta, which is, now we know clearly that that's applied to that day. So rechitza, it's not part of that. Lo yada inuya hashta, meaning if someone avoiding himself from bathing, you do not know right away. If you don't eat, you don't drink, is a right away, an effect upon you. Not bathing, it takes time before you feel it, before the body reacting to that manner of affliction. Gabei Nedarim dichtiv, when you speak about revocation of vows, the Torah said in the book of Numbers, chapter 30, verse 14, כל נדר, any manner of vow, וכל שבועת איסר לענות נפש, any manner of oath that involve of affliction upon the soul, אישה יקימנו ואישה יפרנו. So it means מילתא דעתיה לידי עינוי. That referring to something that leads to affliction, which is eventually leads to affliction. The Rosh explained, if that continue for a period of time, then you feel the affliction by avoiding this. So therefore the husband can revoke it. V'chi lo rachatza, when the wife is not bathing, guess what? Atya lidei inui, she will lead to affliction. So another prohibiting bathing is also included. So therefore the husband can revoke it. So there is a book called Chelkat Yaakov. You have a discussion over modern days, people take those pills. They take those pills before the fast day, and then they don't feel anything, right? They don't feel the fast. So you ask a question, is that okay to do before Yom Kippur? We just learned, the Torah said that the term ve'initem et nafshoteichem, you should put an affliction upon your souls. If you don't feel the fasts, you take those pills, so what type of affliction is this? So again, it's a ma'alach there. I would like to conclude with a discussion that the Brisker Rav asked, famous Lithuanian rabbi. It was a medical doctor who was a Torah observant individual that was asked before Yom Kippur by a sick person. He asked him if he can fast on Yom Kippur. So the doctor said, yes, you can fast. So the family came, they took the doctor to the Briskerov, and they claim what the doctor said is wrong. Why? Because they said the doctor knows well that this person cannot fast. His physical condition, he cannot fast. So why are you telling me he can fast? So the doctor said, look, I know him, and I want him to feel that there is a hope, and for him it's very important to fast. So, and I know that he's not going to listen to me anyway, and he's going to fast regardless. So I figure out, I'll tell him that he can fast, so he maybe gather some strength to fast, and he see himself in a positive mode. He give himself a strength to fight his sickness. So the Briskerov have a big malach, a big discussion, if that's in the authority of the doctor. Because the doctor have his license to tell the people, to evaluate and tell them the medical views. This is more matter of halakha. And therefore, it's a big question if you're allowed to do it or not, since it's not a framework of what expecting from him.
Malachai Yeshuloim, Malachai